Hello everyone, I'm Yijun Zhang. So Xiaohang talked about the physical part of data center security, and Tyler will focus more on the software level of data center security. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the security from the management side. So what is data center security? Here's the definition from the Wikipedia. So data center security is the set of policies, precautions, and practices adopted to avoid unauthorized access and manipulation of a data center's resources. So when we talk about data center security, we are facing some common problems such as denial of service, theft of confidential information, data alteration, and data loss. So how can we prevent um, those problems by applying some golden rules from the management side? How can we build a security management system and do the operation? So I found this topic kind of interesting. So I do a little bit, do some research on this topic, and I'm going to separate this topic into 5 parts. Their leadership of the organization, and how to do planning, and what supports are needed before the operation, and how to do the operation, and how to do performance evaluation of the operation. So here's the life cycle of a security management system. So for the leadership, so um, for example, we are an organization, so we need the leadership to um, do planning, to come up with some policy and strategies we need to for the following step. So a good leadership or some top management are actually demonstrating some golden rules to ensure the following things. The first thing is to ensure the establishment of security policy and objectives. So those policy and objectives should be compatible with the strategic direction of the organization. And then the leadership, they are ensuring that the resources needed are available. Also, they need to ensure effective communication. They need to let people know what's the importance of effective security management, and what's the importance of conforming to the security requirement. They need to make good influence on people, on the employees, on the risk owners. And also they need to ensure that the security management system achieves its intended outcomes as planned. And they need to promote continued improvement of the security management system. So after we have a good leadership, we need to do planning, we need to come up with the policy. So the policy, we need to do make up the policy according to the requirements mentioned above. So for the planning, it includes 3 parts. The first one is to establish some criteria, and then to define and apply some risk treatment process. And the last one is establish some objective at relevant functions and levels. So we'll talk about it later. So for the risk criteria, it including the risk acceptance criteria and the criteria for performing security risk assessment. So both are very important. And for the later one, after we have the assessment, we need to ensure that repeated risk assessment will the assessment are reproducible. They will produce consistent, valid, and comparable results every time we do the assessment. Then, after having the assessment, we need to define and apply security risk treatment process. We need to, according to the policy, we need to select appropriate risk treatment options and determine all controls that are necessary for those options chosen. And we also need to formulate a risk treatment plan, so everybody have a plan to follow. And after we got all this plan and strategy and policy, we need to obtain risk owners' approval. We need to get the approval of the plan and get the approval of the acceptance of the residual security risk. Yeah. So after that, we need to establish some objectives. To make it more simple, is just to determine what will be done and what resources will be required for the support and operation, and who will be responsible, and when will it be completed, and how the result will be evaluated. So, so all those objectives shall be consistent with the information security policy we just come up with, and they should be measurable, and they should be communicated, and they should be updated as appropriate. So here is the process of doing planning. After doing planning, we are not ready for the operation yet. We need to make sure that all supports needed are available. So as we talked about before, the leadership should ensure the supports are available in time. So the supports actually including 5 points or more, but I just make it 5 points. The first one is the resources. The organization shall determine and provide the resources needed for establishment, implementation, maintenance, and continued improvement of the security management system. That's very important. Resources allocation is very important. And then the supports includes people. We need to pay attention to the competence of the persons doing work. The organization shall determine the necessary competence of persons who are doing work, and also we need to ensure that these persons are competent on the basis of appropriate education, training, or experience. That's how we hire people. And last but not least, we might want to retain appropriate documented information as evidence of competence. Then for the people who are doing work, who do the operation, they need to have some awareness. People doing work under the organization's control shall be aware of the information security policy. They need to be familiar with the policy and the documents, and they need to aware of their contribution to the effectiveness of the security management system, and their contribution to the benefits. What's the benefits of improving the performance of security management, and also they need to be aware of the impact of not fulfilling the security requirements. So after that, communication is also an important part of supports. Um, the organization shall determine the needs of communication, including internal or external communication. Um, they need to make some communication plan and communication process, um, such as on what to communicate, when to communicate, with whom to communicate, and who shall communicate, and what's the process detailed. Um, do we have a communication process to follow? That's very important to make um, uh, effective communication when risk happened. So after we having all those policy and strategy, we need to have some documented information. So uh, here are some rules to create and update documented information. The organization shall ensure appropriate identification and description of the document, such as proper title, date, author, and reference. And the document should follow proper formats, such as language, um, software version, and graphics, and what's the media of the document, such as paper or electronic. And also, the organization should ensure the control of documented information. They need to ensure that it is available and suitable for use, and when and where it is needed, and they need to ensure that the documents are adequately protected. They need to prevent them from loss of confidentiality, improper use, or loss of integrity. Also, they need to come up with a plan of the distribution, access, retrieval, and use of the documents, and the control of change, such as the version control, and when to update the documentation, and also the retention and disposition of the document. So sounds like everything is ready. So we will go to the operation part. Since we have all the documents and policy to follow, um, it sounds very easy to do operation if everyone is well trained, but we also need to pay attention to something during the operation. The first one is to keep the document information as evidence. They need to, the organization shall retain documented information of results. Also, they need to do risk assessment uh, uh, on planned interval. Um, they need to perform information security risk assessment at planned interval, or when significant changes are proposed or occur. And when doing the reassessment, they need to uh, take account of the criteria established before. So that's almost the whole life cycle of security management system. And performance evaluation is performed during the whole life cycle actually, and but it's not only about the operation step. So for the performance evaluation, it is about monitoring and measurement, analysis, and evaluation. So the organization shall evaluate the information security performance and the effectiveness of the communication, the effectiveness of the management system, the effectiveness of the people, the employees, and more detailed the organization shall determine what needs to be monitored or measured, including security process and controls. And they need to determine the methods for monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation. So the method, they need to come up with some methods that are reproducible. The methods selected should produce comparable and reproducible results. Then the methods can be considered valid. And the organization should also determine when the monitor and measuring shall be performed, or when the result from monitoring and measurement shall be analyzed and evaluated. Also, they need to determine who shall monitor and measure, who shall analyze and evaluate these results from the monitoring and measurement. Again, the organization shall retain all the appropriate documented information as evidence. For example, the evidence of monitoring and measurement results. So these evidence should be kept for the future. They might be very important when some legal issues happens, or yeah, they are very important anyway. So I know this topic might be a little bit boring, but yeah, here I want to introduce something might be excited. So this company are hiring data center security manager, and the salary is actually pretty good. So if you are interested or motivated, you can do a little bit more research on this topic, how to build or plan the management system for the security of data center. Thank you.